Welcome to Blue Collar Mystics, the under-the-hood approach to the depths of human consciousness. So many mysteries, so little time, so many big words. That's why we aim to take the mystical and make it practical, usable in your everyday life. And we want to hear from you. We want to hear your story. What happened when you started asking yourself the real questions? Like, who am I? What is this? Is it a hologram? Is this some kind of weird cosmic joke? Hey, these are the questions that we are trying to get to the bottom of as we explore the final rabbit hole together here as Blue Collar Mystics. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show, Blue Collar Mystics. We are on a Transurfing safari with Abby Johnson. Welcome, Abby.
Thank you. That was a nice way to say hello.
It was nice. Yeah, we've been talking about reality transurfing, kind of going back over some of these concepts. I think it's the white pill. I think it's the way. It was for me. And I know Abby and I probably both feel that way. And it's opened up a lot of doors to our own advancement, growth, our own views of the world and all that kind of stuff. Abby's come from being a teacher to becoming a bodybuilder, which is pretty cool. I'm on a journey of self-discovery, and I've been doing comedy, which is probably something I could have done a while back ago. I'm having fun with it. I've learned a lot. I'll talk a little bit about some of the doors that I've personally embarked on, which it's always unexpected. It kind of goes to that like hero's journey thing too. You start out on something and it doesn't usually wind up the way you think it's going to in your head. But that's kind of the fun of it too. I've been a little bit under the weather the past week. It's been a little bit of a challenge. I have been able to mostly get everything done that I needed to do. But tonight we're going to be talking about the wave of fortune. And we talked a little bit before. We'll probably couple this in with another one of the chapters a little bit, which is called the induced transition. One is basically an upward spiral, and the other is the downward spiral. So they're kind of the yin and the yang part of reality transurfing, maybe.
For sure. And he doesn't say it, but I would say that this is sort of how reality transurfing gets its name, because a lot of people are like, what is transurfing? Which in the beginning he says that's just the name that was given to him by the Guardian. But you're supposed to catch the wave of fortune. That's the idea. So if you're riding the wave of fortune, I think that is where surfing comes in.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. There's like this, you could think of all the different options maybe stacked up, on top of each other. And maybe you're like riding the wave of different options or possibilities toward that are for you, right? Like there's infinity is real. That's the basic premise of the book. We discussed that, I think, relatively in depth the first episode. But understanding that, it kind of means that there's just a ton of different possibilities for you. And So basically the idea is to basically shift through, like people call it reality shifting or whatever.
Timeline jumping.
Timeline jumping. Yeah.
It's the whole idea that you're not stuck in whatever you think fate has handed you.
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit too, because he says that fate is written in the book. That's like a Muslim saying, your fate is written in the book. And that's kind of a paradox, because it's like, while you do sort of have a fate, it's also very malleable. The essence of it is something that's probably very individualized and unique to you, but the way that it sort of manifests, if you will, it may not shake out it could shake out in many different sort of faces or representations, if you will, which is a pretty interesting concept. It's kind of deep, but to me, it makes sense. But
Yeah, I sort of see it as there's set points, things that are always meant to happen and will happen, but you ultimately still have a choice in a lot of things.
maybe there are set lessons too, that it's
Yeah,
like, you're going to learn this, buddy, whether you like
that's
it or
what you
not.
came here for. So you signed up for this.
Right. You might learn it in a high-paced environment in New York City, or you might learn it on a farm in Iowa, but you're going to learn it. And so be it. So be the thing, which is cool and interesting. Yeah, really, we have choice. Transurfing, we have options, and basically we're gliding along potential of really a lot of different possibilities, right? Some are more possible than others, obviously, right? And we'll get into that maybe a little bit further down, but this particular chapter is really about luck, the bluebird of happiness. He also calls it as a synonym. It's synonymous, and basically finding ways to capitalize on positive opportunities.
To keep them coming, because we're coming off the chapter about pendulums and these energy structures that take your energy into. There is good news, it's not all bad news.
Yeah.
Every pendulum is bad just on a certain level, because they're all designed to take your energy. So, even he gives example, your volleyball team or your swim team, you're not likely to like bust out in fights or anything like that. You're a swim team against the volleyball team, but there are certain rules you have to follow to be a part of the club to engage in it. So they all are designed to take your energy at some level. You're going to have to engage with pendulums, but the alternative to this, the good side of it is the wave of fortune.
Yeah. It's a good thing, because you learn about pendulums. I remember that when I was first learning about it, 2016, I was reading this book, and then I was explaining it to my then roommate at the time, and I was smoking a cigarette. And he's like, "Well, cigarettes are pendulums." I was like, "Yeah, man, I know. Thanks for rubbing that in my face." You know what I mean? Like, I
What is
appreciate
it at this
it.
point, though? You're like, fuck, they're everywhere.
Thanks for that.
Yeah.
I was just like miffed, because it hits you. You're like, "Oh my God," you start seeing them everywhere. And I think we said something about that last week, but this idea is very helpful to sort of shift into a better headspace, because you don't want to get hung up on the pendulums, right? Like, we definitely have to engage with them and basically manage our relationships with them, but choosing how we interact. And in the beginning of this one, in this chapter, he's talking about that at the very beginning, about how to how every pendulum is potentially destructive. That he gave us a trick question in the last chapter, asking which pendulums would be constructive, and even saying that the pendulum of transurfing would be constructive, because everyone who was a part of it would be looking out for their own individual benefit. But then at the beginning of this chapter, he says that all pendulums are destructive. that he so I don't know if that's a contradiction or if it was on accident or what.
I
But
don't think so because I mean, you do have, like he said, you have to interact on some level because if not, you're in a suspended state. So you're gonna have to pick the thing is that you always have choice. So you don't have to get so engaged in politics. You don't have to get so engaged in religion that it does loose you. You know,
right.
you can whatever pendulums you decide to interact with, you get to decide your level. And is it worth it? Is it something that you actually want to pursue, something that you're passionate and enjoy doing?
Yep. Yeah, I mean, basically you just kind of measure what you get out of it and if it's worth it. It's like the gym is the example that he uses in this chapter, saying that, well, certainly the gym couldn't be, a destructive pendulum because you're going in there for your own health's sake. But you see the structure of the gym, right? Like you still have to comply with all of the rules and mandates and be a good gym member, right? Which are not bad things, right? Like wipe the machine down, asshole. You know what I mean? Like don't be
Most people
gross.
don't. I will say that.
People are
Like,
good at Planet Fitness. I know that's like I know
I
Planet
just wipe
Fitness.
my shit down before I use it. So
Well, I mean, before the pandemic, I feel like people would just wipe it down with their towel, but now they have like a whole paper towel. You got to spray it down with disinfectant kind of stuff. It's intense. But yeah, I mean, so it's destructive. I'm huffing Clorox every time I go to the gym. But yeah, I mean, what he's talking about in this chapter is really your thoughts come back to you like a boomerang. And this is not, it's really not anything very radical in comparison to a lot of new age, new thought, self-help sort of things. But there are some nuances that he points out. But the big thing is not letting negativity in, like you're saying. It's like you kind of engage with the pendulum because you have to, right? It's there, right? The politics are on the TV, even at the gym, and it's saying the thing. But are you going to let that in to your emotional core? And are you going to express distaste whenever you are basically jolted or prodded or,
because that is the big thing is expressing distaste, or being upset about it. Even if you don't feel like you're upset, you're just like, fuck that. Whatever, you've expressed it, you put it out into the world, it's a vibration now. Like your sound is a vibration. So you throw that out there, then you're vibrating at that frequency now, whether you think you are or not. So, there are powers in the word, in the spoken word, and your thoughts. They all radiate energy. So if you're radiating this low frequency energy because you just watched the news and you took that in, and that's where the observer comes in. And that's what I try to do with anything: music, TV, books that I read. I used to love to get absorbed in them and, let my emotions, get wrapped up in the story and the saga of it all. And then I started realizing how unhealthy it was. So I started watching with my observer. So I can watch a movie. I might have a little emotional reaction because it's natural. That's what it's supposed to do. Right.
right.
But instead of taking it in and like really just letting it, like a book, anybody who reads fiction knows you get wrapped up in the story. And when you finish the book, you might feel sad because it's over. And, you have this whole day of emotion.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of allowing that to happen, you read it with your observer, enjoy it for what it is, enjoy the literature, and don't let yourself get so wrapped up in it.
Yeah, that's the main trick is like when we really are we lose mindfulness of what it is that we're engaging with. And then what can happen with that distaste is that can just start to unravel. So I'm talking now more about the induced shift, which is the antithesis of the wave of fortune. The wave of fortune is awesome. Like I want to definitely highlight that. And I think it's important to focus on what it is that you want, right? Like in some of the meditations I listened to with Seminary, It's really about clinging on to something, and then everything else can subside, right? Like, you decide what you focus on. You choose to focus on the positive things, the good things. Even when something crazy happens, you try to find the uh, the silver
I say so,
lining.
yeah, the silver lining, and I like to think of it as silver threads. I think of it all as a big tapestry because you can go ahead and pick apart, the flaws in any tapestry, but your job really to find the wave of fortune is to find the little silver threads that are woven throughout it, because that puts you on a higher timeline,
Yeah, yeah.
because then you're resonating at that frequency.
You're choosing to see that part. So in the first episode, I mentioned the reticular activation system, and the part of our brain that we basically we are teaching it what to pay attention to. That is the part of our brain that's the you know the chooser, really, that's highlighting whatever aspects of reality that we choose to see. So if you see someone who's just got a negative attitude all the time, they're going to see the negative in everything. They're going to see how it affects them negatively and how terrible it is, and bitch and complain. Nobody's going to want to be around them, and they're going to alienate themselves from anything positive ever happening to them in their life.
And you see this on Facebook all the time. Like, this is when I got tired of Facebook. Once I started realizing, the thing about induced transitions and stuff, it just made me sick. Like, it was a comedy, really, but I was just like, oh my gosh, look at these people. They're destroying their own lives. They're the ones who are like, oh, why is everything so fucked up? Why is my life so horrible? I mean, they're making these posts like 2 or 3 times a week, And then I took a 3-year gap from Facebook. I went back on, and then sure enough, the same people are still posting it. It's like they have all this shit happening in their life constantly. But the more that they focus on it, because all you have to do is pay attention to it and put your emotional energy into the bad thing, and all of a sudden they just keep happening. It's a downward spiral. Like, have you ever had one of those days where I remember going to work one morning and I feel like I don't remember what happened, but for some reason I was running late. Then I get stopped by a train, so I'm even later.
Mm-hmm.
And then I get to work and like I drop a whole, because I was a cook at the time, I dropped a whole pan of something. I was just like, oh my gosh. Like, and then I get off work and my tire is flat. It just was like this whole day where everything kept happening, but I was focusing on the negative, and it was just like could not have a good day for the life of me. And I was totally wrapped up in a downward spiral. I had no idea about this idea, but I had observed it in my own life before I'd ever read this concept.
I mean, I did it all the time. I remember in college, I would go to the ATM and I would be like, oh no, I overdrew my account and all these terrible things. And then my muffler would fall off, like just random shit would just keep happening. And I would just continue to express my distaste and just come undone. And it was like a comedy of errors. I mean, it
Yeah.
really was. Like, it was fucking hilarious from the observer standpoint, because it's like,
Well,
dude,
by
look
the
at
time you
you.
get to like the 7th or 8th thing, you're just laughing because it's like, what else,
Yeah, and then you stop, then you still the sway of the pendulum because you're laughing about it because of the
Yeah,
absurdity of it. But it takes that, it takes
it
coming
does.
completely undone, you know?
And it's so wild because it's like, it's so tangible, that even if you don't believe in all this and you think it's crazy, like you've probably experienced it where it's just one thing after another the whole entire day. And the trick to get out of it is to literally, in every bad situation, and I'm not talking about like false positivity, but there's always one little tiny silver thread, one good thing that came from it. That's all you have to do. You just have to find it. What's the silver thread? What was like the one thing that might have been good about it?
Yeah, in that Napoleon Hill book, which is we mentioned last week, it's got the idea of the law of hypnotic rhythm in there, which is very similar, if not the same sort of observation as pendulums. And he also talks about how in every circumstance there are two seeds, the seed of a positive seed and a negative seed that come out of every situation or circumstance. And we can choose there which one we're going to focus on. So it's either the negative or the positive. And so it's up to us to really consciously remember to choose, because one of the things he says in this chapter that really explains this tendency to focus on the negative. I mean, it's very natural. It's very natural to focus on the negative, and it's for our survival's sake, like he's talking about it, that we always have this mental chatter going on in our mind. And so for thousands and thousands of years, through subservience to pendulums and just survival in general, we've had to look out for negative things in order to mark and avoid them. So that's way more natural for us in our like selective focus, I guess, to pay attention to than it's to start to pay attention to the positive things. But if we learn to shift our awareness to the positive things, then more favorable events can come through, and we might find ourselves on the wave of fortune. And the wave of fortune too is sort of like one of those things where it's like if you're on a bridge and they're like, don't look down, you know, like you don't want to like acknowledge it too much. You don't want to be like, hey, I'm on the wave of fortune, look at me. You know, like I feel like as soon as you like make that observation, you kind of lose the magic of it, if that makes sense. Like he's talking about the bluebird of happiness, and it will come and land in your hand. But as soon as you try to grab that bird, you know, it'll fly away immediately. And then there's an enigmatic sort of essence to this idea of the wave of fortune. It's not technically a wave, as you were saying before. It's like these lifelines are stacked. And so as we continue to choose and highlight those positive aspects, we're getting more and more favorable lifelines. But the wave itself is not a wave. Like water's not moving, right? It's energy in the water that's moving. So they think about it like that. So when we're on that wave of good fortune, you know, we're just highlighting those higher tracks,
And more become highlighted, so there's more opportunities to stay on a fortunate lifeline.
Yep, absolutely. As soon as you shift your focus and then start to see how things could go the other way, though, that's that beginning of that distaste and the induced shift or downward spiral.
You lost the wave.
Exactly. And it's easy to do. I mean, it's really easy to lose it. Like I can look back and see how I was on it at times and then how I got off of it as well. Like 2018, I was definitely on it. And I didn't even, I may have not even been aware, but I was just goofing around and having fun, right? And just paying attention to things that I thought were fun and entertaining and cool. And I had just finished one project, which I got an IMDb credit for, like a producer credit. And then I got another opportunity to do another prank show that's on Netflix called Prank Encounters. And when I was at this weird hospital in Noonan, Georgia, like this weird old abandoned hospital, it was creepy as hell. I just sent a silly, remember the app Marco Polo? It was like a video messaging app.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to have that with some friends. And I sent a random Marco Polo to my buddy Terry, who to me is like a natural transurfer. He's like one of those people who I've just seen his life. He's always on the wave of fortune. And I just sent him like a random Marco Polo, and he sent me one back and was like, hey, dude, you want to spend the winter, in the Caribbean? You want to work on a cruise ship? And I was like, sure, like, absolutely, and so that got me on the ships working for Six Band for a couple of years, which was awesome. It was a huge part of that whole time. I would say was very much a wave of fortune, and then kind of ended abruptly in 2020 with the whole pandemic thing.
That's a set point.
Yeah.
Not just for you, for humanity. So.
For sure. But it's like the way I handled it. If I could go back, I would have handled that completely differently. I've come back at talking about this stuff because I have gained some experiences that are not so favorable, right? Like I've made my mistakes. You can read this book, and you can say that you understand the concepts in it, and you can understand the concepts really well, but you can still fuck it up,
all the time. Like You know how many times I have to remind myself, you could be transurfing this shit.
I have to do it too because it's like it's one thing to know the concepts and it's another thing to practice. Even today, it's like and another thing too, I was saying to you before, it's like after being under the weather and stuff, I'm like I could so more talk about the induced shift right now than I can the wave of fortune. And I honestly, I feel like I'm on both of them at the same time. That's some weird shit to say, but I feel that like in one way, there's that, and then in the other way is that because I feel like I understand how the induced shift sneaks up on you. It's like a snake; it just bites you and then starts wrapping its coils around you, very slowly. It's like you get sick, or you know, uh, you get like a notice in the mail, or like the tax guy comes, or you get audited, or some random unfavorable thing happens to you, and it sets you on a course for you to completely come unraveled. And you just have to stay resilient. And what is it that Sean says from the Spiders? Imperturbable. You have to stay focused on anything that you can, seeking those opportunities. And it's hard to do that, especially if you are emotionally tired or physically sick. Like I hate from the deepest part of my being sick because I just get so frustrated. I just want to
You're
feel,
inducing a transition right now.
you know what I'm
You're
saying?
expressing your
Distaste. I
distaste.
know, I know. I realize that. That's why it's funny.
I
But
know.
but I understand and I can empathize and sympathize with anybody who is kind of going through that because your energy's lower, you don't feel well, so it's so much easier to just, shoot off at the mouth, to express more distaste as a result of that, to like lose the observer, and then all of a sudden, you put yourself in an induced transition. You're shifting downward.
See, and that could have easily happened to me today. Crazy thing happened. This girl in our town on Saturday night gets hit by a drunk driver. Like he backed up over her. Like it was, I guess, homicide. But anyway, that was tragic enough, right? But then I find out today, my daughter tells me, Mom, I need to tell you something. And then she bursts out in tears. And what she did was really smart, though. She said, I need you to just be quiet and not say anything. So that like put me in the observer mode. I was like, oh, okay. So don't get your emotions involved, Abby. Just listen. And then, she talked about how when she was saying that at a friend's house, they snuck out and they were there. They were at this party where it happened. So, it was already devastating, but then, to hear that my kid's traumatized on top of it, and now I got to punish her. So I could have easily fallen into a downward spiral. It would have been so easy to do. But because she kind of started with that, like just be quiet and listen. I turned that on, and the way I managed to not get into a downward spiral, especially having to speak to, 3 other girls' moms today, and to find out that we'll probably be contacted by law enforcement as well. Um, with all of this being said, I could easily be like expressing my distaste and, talking about what a shit show it all is, but I haven't gone there because I could see the silver lining in this. A, it opened up a line of communication with my daughter. She now knows that she can trust me and she can talk to me about things. And B, my kid's alive. So I can see the 2 positive things in this situation. To me, that's 2 silver threads. So this isn't going to cause me to downward spiral.
Awesome. Yeah. And me the same, because I've managed to still get everything relatively speaking. Like I fell off my gym sort of routine, because
Your
obviously
body needs to heal.
you
Yes.
can't go to the gym with if you're sick, but everything else you can still do stand-up comedy and produce 3 sold out shows in a row. You know what I mean?
That's pretty impressive.
I can still answer the phone. I'm fortunate I can work from bed and by day for our business. Like I mostly just have to answer the phone. I've got a laptop. So I can, do that. And so now I know, I don't know, it gives me a little bit more, I would say, like, maybe self-confidence or self-assuredness that even if things are difficult, I can still make it through and still get through, even if it's tough. Even if I don't feel great, I can still get myself through and get the things that to be done. It's like, I don't know, I still got,
Look what I accomplished. Yeah,
yeah,
you're
exactly. I
a
still
badass.
I still got it done. We still, it's like maybe my performances weren't, my energy wasn't maybe what it could have been, but I still got like really good captures of all the other comedians. We still sold the place out. I've got really good momentum going. Um, you know, uh, all those things. And those are all very, very positive things. And shout out to Carla. She hooked me up with some ways to watch some TV. So I watched Fargo while I was laid up on her account. Thank
Nice.
you so much. I've been doing a joke because I got signed out. Like, I guess people in the Airbnb, I had other people's passwords before, and people will come through my Airbnb and then they sign me out, so I don't know what they are. So Carla hooked me up with that. And I've been making a joke about how hard it is dating, and how like you can't afford Netflix. So you got to like Roku and chill,
You gotta have the commercials.
the commercials are the perfect time to make a move, though. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, is that right?
I don't know. I don't know.
I think that's perfect time to go to the bathroom. That's a
Fair
silver
enough.
lining.
Fair enough. Yeah, you got to use it for what it is.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, I used to like this chapter. Used to, I don't know. I never really saw the value in it, if I could say that, like I do now. But there's a lot of depth actually in this particular chapter, and I think if we couple it with the other induced transition, because they are the same thing, really.
Yeah, just one moves you to more favorable lifelines and the other one, takes you down to the shit show.
Yeah.
And so one of the things he said though is that, yeah, you're not trying to grasp hard onto the bluebird of happiness, but when you find anything favorable happening, like good news, something positive, any kind of positive message that you get, anything that makes you feel slightly happy and excited, don't let go of that feeling of excitement. Express it outwardly, tell somebody, tell a couple people, and allow yourself to feel the joy of that moment because that opens up other favorable lifelines around you. So all you have to do is just keep paying attention to the stream of good things, and that puts you on the wave of fortune.
Yeah, and that it's hard to remember. Like, it's so easy for us to move past great news. We're like, oh, the good news, and then we stew on the bad news for whatever reason. Like, it's super innate, and manipulators are really good at exploiting that. Like, I had somebody hit me up and send me a DM one time. It just totally train wrecked my trajectory on the day, about somebody that I was working with, and they had sent me a message saying these terrible things about someone that I was working with, and I was shocked. Like, once I got over the initial shock of it, I was like, oh, okay, well, I see kind of what's going on. But in the moment, I was like stewing, steaming. It's like they would just say some really nasty thing about someone in order to knock you off your balance, right? Like, you're working, you're doing your thing, and then all of a sudden somebody just throws in just a horrible, awful thing of news just to set you off course, just to knock you off. And you got to watch out for that. If that happens again, I'll be like a little bit more ready. But people understand, some people are doing that shit on purpose. You know what I mean? They will just say some nasty shit just to mess with you, just to get you off your center, just to knock you off course.
Because they thrive on it. Energy vampires.
Yeah, they do. They love it. They just want to see destruction. Like, they just want to see chaos.
Yes, they do. Would that classify them as a NSP?
I think so. I think it would. Yeah, and there's a lot of people like that in entertainment.
Oh, I believe it.
Of course, right? Like, I mean, especially like we're talking about an industry where people are literally self-seeking and aggrandizement and energy. You know, they want to be pointed out. You know, they're not necessarily all healthy. So it's competitive in a lot of ways, which I don't really see the point in competing, right? Like this book has helped me understand that. It's like if you will just be yourself and not a parody, then you don't have to compete anymore. Like, yeah, there are limited opportunities, but if you create your own opportunities, then there's literally no stopping you, right? Like you can do whatever the hell you want. That's the secret. Well,
So you think it's bad that when I go on stage, I say, "It's Britney, bitch," and I feel like I'm Britney Spears?
I mean, no, whatever like puts you in the mindset for you to perform in that moment.
Even though it's kind of a parody? Even though I'm not really being her, just in my head.
No, that's more like a spirit animal type of
Yeah.
thing.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Britney's my spirit animal.
Yeah, you're just like,
Oh, Cheney, let's put that on some merch.
yeah. That's a good thing, you know. I can make a really bad joke, but I will skip that for now and talk
Oh,
about
I'm bummed.
Oh no. Yeah, induced transition is the negative shift. That's right. But but whatever you've got to get yourself to get into that energy when you get on stage, like whatever that is. One of the guys, he like kind of talks to himself before he goes on stage. A lot of people rehearse. Some people have mantras. Some people will listen to some music or something. Whatever whatever it takes for you to kind of dial in to the moment, you know. Channel your spirit animal, get in touch with that performer energy or that version of yourself, you know, that's connected to that. And that's not a bad thing. I don't think you're being a parody. Like if you were being a parody, you'd go out there dressed as her. You know what I'm saying? Like you would
And
be
then
like,
the
you would do her movements. You know what I'm saying? You would try to get attention the
knife
way that she
dance.
gets. Yeah, you would do a knife. That'd be fucking badass, dude. You come.
Don't think that didn't make me wanna do one.
Yeah,
It's
I want
kinda
to.
cool.
Yeah, yeah, dude. I want Brittany to be my server at the hibachi. You know what I'm saying? I want to see what she's got. That would be a show. Hibachi for me.
It would be.
Yeah.
Watch, we're gonna have to check her page later because 'cause she'll probably have some, like, hibachi thing on there, I swear.
Yeah, we're dialed in,
She
tuned into
listens.
it.
Yep.
So, you know, talks a lot about what imperturbability, being positive, you know, knowing that a person, if you look at what you might call negative situations and find the positive in it, it makes you stronger. It gives you more resilience. It makes you, it obviously opens you up to better situations and circumstances coming forward. And then he talks about magic rituals. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that there is power in thinking optimistically.
Yeah.
You know, he said you should see the glass as half full.
Yeah.
You should, instead of wearing, like, the dark shades over your eyes, wear the rose-tinted glasses. And again, it's not false positivity. It's not like, "Oh, it's okay that this tragedy happened. It's gonna be okay. The world is perfect." It's not that. It's literally you can acknowledge the bad things that happened,
Right.
but you have to find that silver thread. The one good thing one thing that could be considered good, not necessarily that it is good.
Yeah, that seed, the seed of the possibility of something
Yeah.
positive coming from it. Because any, like Napoleon Hill said in that book, like any situation, any circumstance has the potential to have negative and or positive outcomes. So if you start to figure out what the positive outcomes could be from that situation and shift your attention to that, then you can begin to bring those in. And and I think that dovetails into the sort of magic ritual thing because he talks about magic rituals in this book and what some people do in order to basically like establish. So, like for you being like, I'm Britney, bitch, that's a magic ritual, right? Like before you go on stage to be.
It is because I nail my walk out every time when I do
Sure.
it, so
Mhm.
So I'm like, it's Britney, bitch. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the ones that he talks about are how some shopkeepers will brush the things they're selling with money, right? And they'll focus on um, they'll focus on brushing all their little items for sale in their shop with money, and then the very first sale of the day, right? And how that goes.
They give the first sale of the day, they give a discount to because they considered it good luck.
Right. And then that opens them up to really be in that headspace to expect to close the deals, to have more success, to sell more. And that really creates its own wave of fortune with that magic ritual. Even though the ritual itself is not really what the power is the power of observation and opening up to those circumstances.
And I'm going to take this back to Jesus because it's the same idea. Like prayer and supplication, prayers aren't usually answered. He always said, pray in all knowing that your prayer is answered, and it will be. So it's the same idea. These little rituals get you into the spot where you believe that it's going to be a fortunate day. Things are going to happen for you. And then they do.
Absolutely. Yeah, he says the ritual works as a theatrical requisite rather than as a power unto itself. So it's a
It's almost like
show.
priming your subconscious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just a demonstration and a reminder to basically carry that out and to stay in that headspace, to focus on those positive things, because it's not really the form that the ritual takes, he says, but the result that it produces that really matters. But that sits you in that moment. It makes you open up and keeps you focused on what is important. Excuse me.
It's like entering the cheat code at the
Yeah,
beginning.
it is. It is like entering the cheat code. I like that analogy a lot. Yeah,
Well, I
James,
always take it back to the simulation because
that's
it
so
is me.
good. That's so good. James used to always say, like, it's like the vibration, and they all have vibration. So he would even say, like, a businessman doing a suitcase, and doing those things, like those rituals, like it carries them on and it puts them in a vibration. It's a vibratory. He sees everything very vibratory. I guess I'm more visual, and he's just more either kinesthetic or
Auditory.
auditory with the vibration thing, because he's like so into that. But like he can kind of see that. He's like the pendulums, for instance, like those are frequencies too. That we get now. All of a sudden, I'm in the distaste. I'm like, blah, 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 blah. Like that's a whole vibration. It's a whole mood or a vibe, as the kids might say. And that puts us right like into that vibration. It literally is that. And then all of a sudden it's so much easier to stay in that emotion. What is it? Energy and motion, like you say.
Yeah, well, because it is all energy. So eh, anything, your thoughts have energy, your words have energy. They're all just sine waves. They're literally like measurable. It's all electricity. And so when you're putting off these electromagnetic waves, you are resonating at a certain frequency. So if I'm resonating at the frequency of a pendulum, then that's where I'm gonna be. I'm not gonna be able to be on higher lifelines because all my energy is taken down here. But the thing about the wave of fortune is just like the pendulum is an energetic structure that, remember we said they don't know if they're animate or inanimate, but they
Right.
really truly exist. But they said that the wave of fortune is also an energetic structure, but it doesn't require your energy. All it requires is you to choose and see
Mm.
the positive things around it to stay on it.
And it's completely objective too. That's something that he says in the beginning,
Yeah.
where it's like
It doesn't favor
it
anyone.
doesn't care like if you stay
Yeah.
on it or not. It's like,
So it's
yeah,
not trying to take anything from you.
it's very like unconditional. And um yeah, no, it doesn't show favoritism. It's not a respecter of persons, as the Bible might say.
And then, but I mean, that's how a lot of people think, like, the one person that's always lucky. And then you see the people on Facebook who are always talking about what a shit show their life is. So you see both ends of the spectrum. And there's no reason why you can't be the positive end. You just have to choose it and choose to see those good things, and make it a point to express the emotion and the joy from the little wins and the little luck moments.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you can be on that sort of like Peter Pan vibe, or you can be like, well, I got to get my life together. And, everybody's telling me I got to get my poop in a group. And, I've just been playing around and not taking life seriously. I got to take life seriously. And then all of a sudden you can shift to that side of things. And then now here you are, you've outlined that for yourself. And then now you have to walk through whatever that particular set of circumstances is that you've created for yourself and make your life more difficult.
Here's a great example too, because he's talking about in the book, like, have you ever moved? You're moving to a new house and you're like, oh, I can't stand this place. I'm so sick of it. It's going to be so much better at the new place. It's so much nicer and I'm going to be so much happier. And then you sit there and keep expressing your distaste for the place where you currently live. You're sitting there talking about, "Oh, this is horrible. This is bad." The more you do that and you express your distaste for the place you live currently, the more likely the house you move into is going to be a lemon. You're going to move into it and everything's going to go wrong. So when I bought my house, that was like my kids were like, "Oh, we can't wait to move." And I was like, "No, you better be thankful that you have a roof over your head. This house has been good to us, gave us room for everyone to grow up." And, I tried to point out the good things because I was already there, but I didn't need everybody else expressing their distaste to ruin the thing we were moving into.
Yeah, that's a great example. Like that, you can't complain your way to the top. You're not going to complain your way to better circumstances. That's not. No one's ever done that. It's not how it works. It's like, yeah, if you're getting a new car, same sort of thing. You're like, oh, I hate this car. Air conditioner doesn't work. Blah blah blah. And then I can't wait to get my new car. And then you get a new car and the air conditioner is broken. Or you go, another example that he does is like going on vacation and you're like, oh God, sod this dump is what they say. I don't know what sod, I guess sod is like fuck in British, because it's the British translator, but they're like, sod this dump, dude, this place sucks. I can't wait to get to the Caribbean. And then you get to the Caribbean, it's
The
just
weather is shit
rainy. Yeah.
here.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
like a hurricane when you get there because of that, because it just follows you
That's
when you
why
go.
anytime somebody's going on vacation and they're bitching about the weather, I'm like, "Oh, man, you're just asking for it, man," because it does happen.
Yeah, it does. It really does. It's so funny. Well, from my perspective here, we have a little comedy community here, and I cherish and admire it so much. Like, it's a small town, it's a college cow town, right? Like, we're not going to compete with Chicago or New York or something. We're not trying to either, you know what I mean? But we do have a great community here, and I used to have so much envy, maybe. I don't know if that's the right word, but I used to be really like, wow, how cool could it be to be, part of a community, like, and work out of like the Comedy Store or the Comedy Cellar or like some cool club, and you have like a home club or whatever, and and how cool that must be. But and I want to actually make a point that I think it was Plato. It was either Plato or Aristotle made that I'll draw this back to. But the other day I was having a kind of a tough day, some challenges going on, and we have like a group thread that we talk. Hey, this is going on, that's going on, whatever. I sent in the group thread, said, hey guys, I just got this new mic. I asked everybody, do you guys want to do an open mic on Mondays at Cozy Bar? And it's like, we don't have a club, so there's not a club here. We don't have a comedy club. So, we kind of have to go to this place, to that place. I have 3 different venues right now every week that I'm producing shows at. And I said, hey, can somebody make me a flyer? I'm short on time today. I'm busy. It was kind of a tough day. And so I get back home from whatever running around. And then I just pulled into the driveway and I opened my phone to the chat. And there were like 5 different flyers in there. And some of them were just freaking jokes. They were just hilarious. It was just like a cat's picture and it just said comedy show on it, And then another one was just a picture of what is that guy? What is that politician's name who looks like a turtle? I can't remember his name now, but anyway, it was hilarious. And And anyway,
Kevin
there were
something?
all the what's that?
Kevin something? I don't
It's
remember.
not
I feel like it started with a
Kevin.
K.
I could pull it up, but whatever. It doesn't
I know
matter.
who you're talking about.
It could have been anybody. But yeah, it's the Mitch McConnell. That's who it is.
Oh,
Yeah,
wrong
it was a
letter.
picture of Mitch McConnell. It was just said, comedy, whatever. And they were like, kids' finger paintings intentionally. And then there was a couple of good ones too. And I was just dying laughing at all of the flyers in there. And in that moment, I realized like, we don't need a fucking club. We have a whole town. Like, it's cool. Yeah, you work out of this club or that club. That's badass. Good for you. If this venue burns down, we can walk across the street and start another show at this other venue. It doesn't matter. But
You're like a circus.
what we do have is a community, right? Like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's like a modern day circus, exactly. But what we do have is a community of people who are supporting each other. We go out, we talk, we eat pizza after, and talk about our jokes and what's going on and stuff. Everybody's pretty supportive. There's not a lot of drama, at least not that I know of. It's one of those things where it's like understanding the knowledge of pendulums and how groups operate. Like, it helps, right? That's like, you can't try to dominate the structure. That's weird. It needs to breathe. It needs to be autonomous and be able to form itself and do all those types of things. So you kind of nurture it. But what we do have is that community. So I could be like, well, this is bullshit. I should be in like a big town like LA and fucking do, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, man. Like, I would get out there and the community out there would have the same issues that I would be bitching about here. Right. Like, it's like, and that brings me to this. I can't remember who it was, but it was one of the Greek. I think it was Socrates. I said Plato and Aristotle, but I'm going to settle on Socrates but he's like standing outside of a town, and maybe it's Crete or something. I can't remember. I think it's Athens. He's standing outside of Athens, and someone's coming in, and they're from Crete, and he's like, "Hey, how you doing? You're coming into Athens, I see." He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "I'm from Crete." He's like, "Well, how's Crete?" He's like, "Oh man, Crete's great. There's some good people, great family, good atmosphere, loving, amazing community." And then Socrates is like, "Oh yeah, well, Athens, absolutely exactly the same. Great people, great atmosphere, good community, food's good. You're gonna love it." And then the next person comes, and they're coming from Crete. If I'm screwing this up, then that's great. It's fun. But
We'll enjoy your version, so it doesn't matter.
the
I
point
don't know any
the
version, so
point
it's okay.
remains the same. Then another person comes. They're from Crete. They're like, and Socrates is like, "Hey, how's it going? Are you coming in to Athens? Welcome. Are you where are you from? Oh, you're from Crete. Like, how is Crete? Oh, it's terrible. The people are mean. They're snubby. They're just awful to each other. They backstab each other and talk behind their backs. They're just terrible." And then he goes, "Well, I got some bad news for you. The people in Athens, they talk behind each other. They're catty. They're just the worst. You're not going to like it here, So the point remains, just like what we're talking about in this book, like they were talking about in ancient Greece, the world is a mirror. It will reflect. And so if I went out to some other community or something, it would be no different than the community that I see here. It's like, enjoy and embrace what you have now and where you're at and what you're doing. And then you will be able to sort of grow that into maybe bigger and bigger spheres of influence and other areas and things like that. It doesn't work where you have contempt for one place and then go to another place and then everything is great. Wherever you go, there you are. You're going to fucking
Because it
ruin it.
comes back to that whole reticular activation system, the observer effect of it all.
Yeah.
Because what you're observing, you're going to keep observing. It doesn't matter if you're in a new environment, you're going to find the same issues.
It's true. And there are, other places, and other places have different cultures and things like that. It's like, certainly it's much more competitive in a bigger city and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot more opportunities. It's more big time, prime time, whatever. But essentially, it's how you interact with everybody and how you are and what you're focusing on that's going to perpetuate the way that you're interacting and the set of circumstances that you have in that environment. Anyway.
Steven talks about, when you're anything that in your house that you're getting rid of, instead of, and I've seen this like with feng shui and stuff where, they go through closets and they get rid of the shirts that you don't wear or the clothes that you've never worn because we'll get into this later. It's not your item. It's not your goal. It's not your door. So, um, but in feng shui, they'll tell you to hug the item and tell it thank you before you get rid of it. And he essentially says that in this chapter too, that any items that you're discarding and getting rid of, you should um, get the frequency, the energy around it, the vibration. If you get rid of it, not in distaste, but you again thank it for being your item for however long and get rid of it, then you're still resonating at a higher frequency.
100%. Yeah. I think that's something I need to be more conscious about. But yeah, thanking it, it's like he's saying that too about your house, it's like thank it for providing shelter and from the rain, and thank you for serving me for as long as you did. You retire that shirt that has a bunch of holes in it, that old Star Wars shirt or whatever, and you're like, I really had we had a lot of good times there, buddy, didn't we? Like the car, same kind of thing. I had a deer last year. It's like, or 2 years ago, maybe that was. I can't
I feel
remember.
like it was last year because I
It
remember you
must have
car
been.
shopping.
I must have been last. I don't know. My head's not great right now.
I know it's like 2020. We all remember that.
Yeah, everything else is kind of smushed together. Maybe it was last year. It was in November, whenever it
All
was.
the last 3 years are kind of like, yeah, they're all just 1 year,
Yeah, yeah. I'm a little
and then there's
sluggish.
2020.
I'm a little sluggish too. My Socrates. I'm pretty sure it was Socrates, but it doesn't matter. The point remains, right? Like
It was my dad.
it was Abby's dad. But yeah, I've
This
been
is
under the
the
weather.
internet. We can quote whoever we want.
It's true. I just don't want to sound like an idiot, but like that doesn't matter. That's just gonna happen anyway. That's gonna happen regardless.
Unless I have notes, I'm probably gonna sound like an idiot. So
Yeah, I'm just gonna. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be posting stuff on the internet if I was so afraid of sounding like an idiot. Someone told me they laughed at me earlier today, and with me sometimes. So
you
I
are
don't
a
care.
fucking comedian, so
I
you
don't
should
care
be used to people laughing at your expense.
if they're
So
laughing.
technically, they think you're an idiot, right?
I'm happy. I'm happy if they're laughing. The clown is an idiot. That's the whole point, That's the whole archetype of the clown, It's like you're supposed to be doomed, but you
Yeah.
are very confident, but you're doomed. That's fucking funny. Look at any comedic character on TV, right? Like we know they're doomed, but it's hilarious. They think they're gonna skate right through. They got this. It's the best. I love it so much.
But it's almost like half the time they're oblivious to it too. I like when they're oblivious.
Yeah, that's the best part is when they're oblivious.
That's being
That's the
on a
archetype.
favorable timeline, and if it doesn't look like it, because it always ends up favorable for them.
It is the best. It is the best archetype. Yeah, like Steve Carell or I don't know on The Office. He thinks he's nailing that sexual harassment speech, but he's a complete and total bigot. It's so good.
I've heard one like that in real life.
Whew,
This guy sat there and sexually harassed everyone in the process. I was like, dude,
this new
I
woke
don't think
stuff.
that's the point.
I don't think we're on the
But it
same
was kind of
page.
funny.
That's so funny. Yeah, it was weird watching all the sexual harassment seminars change through all the film projects that I did. Like starting like 2014 to 2016, 2018, 2020. I'm like, man, this is a lot different than, than 2 years ago.
Oh, I haven't had to do that. I could only imagine.
Dude, because you have to do one for every project. You have to sit through it, right? Like it's not like a yearly thing. It's like every project because it has a different crew on it. And so
You have to get into pronouns and stuff.
all that stuff. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, what's
I hadn't even thought
interesting about
that.
it, yeah, what's really interesting about it is the writer's room gets a pass for everything. They can say whatever they want, and it doesn't matter because they have a creative container.
License.
Yeah, which is pretty wild. Yeah.
It's also kinda awesome. I'm glad. I'm glad
Yeah,
that they're not totally putting a damper on free thought and
yeah. I
creativity.
mean, you have to have that. You have to have something, I mean, there might be a couple limits
'Cause
or
who'd
whatever,
wanna
but
watch it without being able to laugh at stuff?
right, you need to be able to open up, and really
Have
some
some conflict.
channel some slurs, whatever. Oh my goodness. Yeah, repeatedly listening to the RT material is a good idea. If you're out there hanging laundry, it's a good thing to do while you're, sniffing the sheets. Hopefully
'Cause
they're
trust me, Owen and I both know it. It doesn't mean that we practice it perfectly, not even close, so
speak for yourself, Abby.
I don't.
No, I've fucked up so much. And that's why I think it's been interesting to kind of like I haven't been making a lot of content. Now I'm doing this YouTube stuff again. Because I don't know, I feel like a lot of people are apprehensive about trying this stuff, right? Like you read it and you don't want it to be untrue. So you're like, I'm just not going to test it because if I don't test it, then it has to be true, but I'm scared, right? Like I'm scared. I don't want to fuck up. I don't want to make a mistake. I don't want to look foolish.
Or
Um,
it could also go the other way where I don't wanna believe it, so I'm not gonna test it. 'Cause what if it does work?
that's right. The fear of failure, fear of success. Two biggest
Yeah.
fears. Yes, absolutely. Um, yeah. So I feel like I've had some time to process this stuff, and some of it, uh, I've made some faux pas, and I've seen some successful runs as well. And it's not something that I guess I say all that to say what I really want to say is you don't just read the book once and you've mastered all the concepts in it. That's not how it works.
No,
You
I
gotta try
wish.
stuff out a bunch of times, and it's like in comedy, right? Like, you don't just like, "I'm gonna be a comedian," and then 2 years later, you're got a Netflix special. That's not how that works. You don't
No, but
become a
I mean, immediately you do see changes because it does shift your paradigm. It's like it's a whole new map.
Yep. It is a whole new map, and it is a very useful and powerful map. It is, like I said at the top of the episode, to me, it's the white pill. It's the way. Like, it is the way to be able to navigate this reality. It's a great model that accommodates literally any other model. If you're a Christian or Buddhist or Muslim, it doesn't matter. Atheist,
Atheists, yeah, all
doesn't
of it.
matter. Is it work? It'll you can plug in and use this as a model, and it'll also help you to not judge people so much, right? Like it really does a great job of outlining what judgment is. And we haven't really gotten quite to some of those points yet, but that's some of the beauty of the book,
We're
you
getting
know.
to some of the fun stuff here pretty soon, I think, though.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll do balance next, and that will be very uh that's the biggest principle in
This
the book.
Yeah, yeah, balance and pendulums.
Yep. And then it'll be fun.
Natural law. I would consider most of this just natural law,
It
and it's
is.
like unless somebody explains it to you, and he does such a really good job of explaining natural law and how things work that it's I think that's why it is such a useful tool. They're in layman's terms, they're not any far-fetched ideas, it's not super esoteric, nothing is hard to practice. I mean, it's hard because you forget,
Right.
but otherwise, it's not.
But you don't have to dedicate yourself to a monastery, become a monk, seek enlightenment,
Spend hours in meditation.
none of that. You can still do all that if you want, but the point of transurfing is to be able to, attain your goal simply, right? Like it's
The
nothing.
easiest means, yeah.
Yeah, the easiest way possible. Doesn't mean there's not a tremendous amount of work involved because there will be. Um, but yeah, it's very, very useful, very insightful, and I love sharing the work and the material. I appreciate everybody for coming and hanging out with us tonight.
Me too.
It's been
Thank
fun.
y'all.
It's been a lively chat. You guys are awesome out there. I see some new faces or names, and it's really cool to be able to connect. If you guys and gals and folks out there have any particular ideas or questions that I could take a stab at, just send me a message or comment on the video. More than happy to make some other videos about it, and I'll get into my own sort of experiences and stuff too as we kind of continue to talk about the stuff. And talk about some of that stuff. And a lot of people ask me about that. I'm a little hesitant to share sometimes, like just personal shit, too much personal shit on the YouTubes and stuff.
I don't really care. As long as you're not giving people's names and stuff, it's whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I feel you. Like I don't know. I just
feel like if I
a little
come from a
apprehensive about some stuff.
personal background when I'm explaining things, then it makes it a little bit easier to understand. It's the whole reading teacher in me, the text to self connection.
Yeah. How to handle negative people? Short answer is rent yourself out. Just let them be cunty. Just let them suck, dude. Just let them be what they are. Don't try to be too happy because it's just going to piss them off. Just kind of depends on the situation. And obviously, there's a nuance to everything. But anyway, I do look forward to getting deeper into this stuff because we're going to get into some of the nuance stuff and like the new videos. I've been meaning to make some, but like I said, this week has been a challenge health wise. So I haven't been able to kind of keep up with what I was hoping to, but that's all right. I'm going to make some more. And I really want to just talk about more of the nuanced concepts. So yeah, hit me up. Let me know if there's anything in particular. Ty hit me up and said, hey, when you do like a series about transurfing for relationships, transurfing for finances, transurfing for this particular thing, like sort of like fill in the blank. I'll probably do one of those a series like that too a little bit once I finish these like more advanced topics. But there's so many like cool nuance topics. And also, yeah, if you're interested in getting the nitty gritty, check out the summary. Should be a link somewhere. Somewhere there's a link.
It'll be there at some point.
There's a link somewhere. Yeah, Transurfing for Dummies. But yeah, basically that's what the summary is. I don't talk about a whole lot of advanced concepts in there, but I just try to summarize all that stuff. And it's on Audible and stuff too. It's on Everand, and it's on my website, bootsygreenwood.com/store. There's some free stuff in there. Jim's core method is on there for free. You can download that. It's awesome. Very helpful. And yeah, we'll be back next week talking about balance. And thanks everybody for coming to hang out. I really, really appreciate it. And yeah,
I'm going to plug Secret Society of Good Guys really quick.
Absolutely.
We live stream Fridays at midnight Eastern Standard Time. Come watch us on YouTube on Project Cheney.
Yeah, it's an awesome show. It's a lot of fun. It's a very lively chat. I like to go in there and riff it up with Runes if he's in there on Friday nights. Usually
we're goofy as hell. It's fun.
A lot of fun. Yeah, check it out. If you're into the conspiratorial kind of stuff, it's a blast. So, all right, everybody, again, thanks so much. Appreciate it. Please share, please comment, subscribe, all that stuff. Trying to bump this channel up and get the numbers up a little bit. So please help in any way you can. Really appreciate it. Have a wonderful, wonderful night. Thanks for hanging out. Much love.
Good night.
See you next time.